They don't want what we know out there.
How a person can go from really almost nothing to becoming a millionaire by owning rental properties.
He would always buy these flip houses, and I just remember thinking, this guy is crazy. Why would he buy that house?
In the past decade, there's been a huge surge in the peer-to-peer short-term rental market.
Become an insider. So you have to know the rules before you get the game.
Every second counts. So make every second count.
Welcome to the Real Estate Jam. Whether you're just beginning or the best of the best, we're glad you're here. We will share successes, failures, and strategies for the action-taking real estate investor. And now to your hosts, JD and Melissa.
Hi guys, welcome to the Real Estate Jam podcast. I'm JD with my wonderful co-host.
Hi, JD.
Melissa. And we're pretty excited. I think this is the first time we've had a guest of this niche on our show. So I'm really excited. It's something that affects every real estate investor, especially the buy and hold investors. We got the one and only Janet Fields. Janet, thank you so much for coming on our show today.
Yes, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Great. Awesome. Well, now you're a property manager, the owner and founder of Oak Trust Properties, operating out of Charleston, South Carolina, 550 units under management. There's only one way to do that many, and that's through systems and processes. But before we get into that, can you let our audience know a little bit about you, how you got into the real estate world, and kind of we'll go from there.
Perfect. Yeah. So my dad was a real estate agent in Charleston. He came over here with the Navy. He really enjoyed selling properties and buying properties for himself. But my mom was like, hey, we're not moving anywhere else. So if you want to do this, you probably should look into your license and do it for other people. So he did. He started picking up properties to manage. Along the way, about 2009, he started his own property management company, grew a portfolio, did a few acquisitions, about 100, 200, 300 clients. And we slowly grew to 600 properties. I bought my first book of business in 2014. And then in 2018, the two of us combined forces into what you know today as Oak Trust Properties. One of the things that has really imprinted on my life is I was really into art. I don't know if you can tell back there's all this beautiful artwork back there. I did not make all that artwork, but I appreciate it, right? So in art, graphic design, all those creative visual fields, you do a lot of collaboration, a lot of feedback, a lot of critiques, productive critiques. So we say, hey, this is the goal. Okay, now here's the targets. Now go do it. And you come back and this whole room of 30 people say, you hit your target or you didn't hit your target. And now how do you fix it? So I've done a few decades of that, and it's respectful collaboration. And I really feel like that's what got me here today, is I'm constantly looking for feedback. I want to know what my clients want. I want to know what my customers want. I want to know what my team wants. I want to know what my community wants. And then we're constantly tweaking and changing that and hopefully moving forward to better deliver for everyone.
I love that. That's cool.
Yeah, that's super awesome. I mean, scaling to being able to manage that many units definitely requires a good team and good systems and processes. Now, a lot of our listeners aren't anywhere close to 550, 600 properties, but I think building the fundamentals when you're first starting out, even on your very first property,
yes.
It allows you to be able to scale up and manage more and go into that. Can you talk to us a little bit about maybe some of the systems or procedures and policies that you have in place that you then duplicate to all the other properties to create your successful property management business?
Yeah, so just about everything we do, we realize we're going to have to do more than once. So we kind of separate everything into buckets. Like we have like leasing for applications, then we have property management. So we have move-ins and move-outs, and then lease renewals, management agreement renewals. So we start putting things into buckets and we find the common threads and what are the biggest threads. And then once we do that, we find the 3 to 5 tasks and we say, okay, how do we hit these targets for each one? And then we build up. One of the things that I have noticed talking to people who are starting their own businesses or they're growing their own personal portfolio is that they don't take the time to record what they're doing. And they come to you with usually about like their max, which it could be anywhere from 50 to 120 properties is when they're like hitting their threshold. They have one assistant and that person just through osmosis and through sitting next to them knows what to do. but then they take on the next couple of properties and they can't move forward because they haven't recorded process. They don't have enough time to stop to teach the next person. So they're almost like imploding. So what I highly recommend, and I know like everybody's probably heard it a million times, is do your systems and process immediately. Pretend like you're going to walk out of this business tomorrow and somebody needs to take over for you. So anything as little as like, how do you enter your checks? Like the main things that are important to your business and operations, you should absolutely record, even if it's just bullet points, like the top 5 to 10 things to get that job done. And then you just keep working on it and evolving. It's a living process. It never ends. You want to look for feedback. It's great to review those things once a year. It's excellent to review those things quarterly.
Yeah, we just started doing that, getting really implementing what you're just talking about this year, right?
Yeah,
It's hard.
Yeah, it is hard because you feel like that's not a good use of your time because you're trying to make money, and it really is.
Yeah, it's hard. It's that upfront investment. It hurts. It hurts so bad. It slows you down. But being entrepreneurs and people like shiny object and go, it feels like a lead weight behind you.
Yeah,
correct.
So the sooner you do it, and if you do it along the way, it's easier. And if you can hire somebody who loves details and they can sit next to you, that's a game changer.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I think part of the problem is when we're trying to build out those processes, we have a process. Every single business, there is processes. It's just a matter of getting them documented. It's just most of the processes are up here or inside Melissa's brain, and then we know exactly what to do, and we expect other people to have that knowledge too, but they haven't been doing this for as long as we have, and getting your team to help you, or forcing yourself to sit down and actually write them out or record it. We use Zoom recordings on Zoom a lot to do that kind of stuff, and then we have one of our VAs process document it for us and then go back and review. And that's been the key thing for us recently in getting our processes all lined out. So
I bet that sped it up a lot. That's a great method.
Yeah. If we could do that with, and there are some things that you can't do like that, but, or I say can't, what I mean is some things require a little bit more time and effort. Okay. So now you said that you grew your portfolio by acquiring other people's books of business. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? Because I'm really curious on how are you valuing these other books of business and making that decision, and then I guess selfishly, I want to know, how can we get our book of business acquired on our short-term property management?
Absolutely. So I've been doing this for about 08, 09, gradually growing into it. So my field of knowledge, my view of understanding has grown. But what I have noticed is that property management has been developing quickly over the past, 5 to 7 years, maybe 10 years. Before, it was mom and pop. It was so mom and pop. Like maybe there was a few of those America Home to Rent type of places that were national, but the majority of property management companies were extremely mom and pop. So you didn't find them on Facebook. You didn't find them they didn't have their own websites. It was just like you called your real estate agent and they connected you with somebody, and it could have been your real estate agent. So a lot of the ways that we found people is they approached us because they knew that we had properties and we managed them, and they no longer wanted to. So they would approach us and they would say a number. And at that point in time, it was a multiple, and it was a really small multiple. It was like 1 to maybe 2.5 times the management agreement line, or the management fee line. And it's become a lot more complicated now that property managers are investing in themselves as business owners and learning about EBITDA and learning about all the other fees that we can do. There's multiple client fees, and there's multiple resident fees that you can really add to that bottom line. And those things really up your game when it comes to selling and what your business is worth. And then how organized it is. Do you have systems and processes? Do you have branding? Can you just hand this over to somebody, and do they know how to move forward with it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that there's still some of those mom and pops out there, but they're definitely few and far between nowadays. Okay, great. Well,
We actually paid to have evaluation a few times, and that was great. It gave me some good feedback, but when I go back to my property management group, it's a little off because it's almost like they have a program, the lawyers have a program that finds other businesses, but because we've been so mom and pop, we're not in there.
Right.
So not sure how much it aligns.
Okay. And when you've gotten up to 500 plus properties, I feel like that's probably at the point where if you don't want to work with an owner or you don't want to work with a property, you really don't have to at this point. Can you talk to us about what you as a efficient property manager are looking for in your clients and your properties, and what's going to make somebody, what makes you work hard for these people?
Absolutely. So I want people who are easy to work with. I want friendly people who treat my team well and have respect for them. I want people who take care of their properties, and I want people who respect our experience and the social credit that we have with our vendors. We know our vendors do good work. We know their pricing. We have created this relationship so we can say, hey, they'll do this for this small window of range, and let's get them out there quickly to serve your resident, the customer, so we can move on. The ones that say, hey, that's great, you send out 2 people, I got your invoices back or your estimates back, and you know what, I want my handyman to do this, let me send out 3 handymen. That's a no-go. This is a big business. We don't have time for that, and we don't want to upset the customers. We are constantly managing that relationship. We have worked hard to foster that relationship and create it positive. So when they have a leak under their sink or something's going wrong, they feel like we'll respond. So when they're slowing down our response time to fixing repairs of the properties, they're damaging that relationship. And it makes it much harder. There's a lot of mediation involved that I think people forget about in property management. And that's a huge piece of our time, that when the owner starts to try to manage the property while we're managing the property, it creates so many issues. And I'll have to say, hey, do you want your rent roll? I'm happy to send over the rent roll for you. There's other companies out there that might be a better fit for you. And if you would like a connection, I'm happy to give you a connection. So
Yeah,
I feel like setting expectations and telling them that no one's too big for me to say, like, I have to have you.
Yeah, we have moved towards that for our short-term rental management, where we are just going to be super select moving forward and cut maybe 1 or 2 of them loose for this end of this season, just because of similar things that you're talking about. Exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
I do have a
The vendor thing
one-pager.
is huge.
So we have a one-pager in office for the sales process. And it actually says, okay, these characteristics are things that we're not looking for. If the client asks to approve their resident, they're not for us. That's liability. That's no go. If they have a random room in the house that's locked and no one's allowed to have access to it, that's bizarre and no go. We don't need that product. And then we have things like, if it needs to have 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, a garage, and we have pluses and minuses. Like if there's a fence, it's a plus. If there's a screen-in porch, it's a plus, because everybody has pets, right? And we want it to be in a neighborhood. So we have like a little point system, a rating scale, and if they don't get 5 or 7, whatever it is, it's a no-go.
Yeah.
So between the property and the client, we have a rating system, and I'm constantly asking people in the office, hey, who's your top 5 to 10 clients? Because I want to send them a survey. Hey, who's your top 5 to 10 clients? Who's easiest to work with? Who sends money? And who doesn't have a problem with their vendors? Who's polite? And they send me a list, and we're sending out surveys to them, finding out what they want, where they're shopping, and where they look for their properties.
Yeah, that's great.
Mhm.
One of the things that I've had with some of the property managers that were property managing for me and that we implemented was our owners have to maintain a minimum balance in any repair or emergency situation. Any repair under a certain dollar amount we make on our own without needing approval, and then anything over a certain dollar amount, excluding emergencies, we connect with them. Do you guys have something like that in place, and what does that policy look like, generally speaking?
Yeah, so we have a dollar amount. It's really not that high. I strongly believe it needs to be increased, and we do have a lot of changes coming here in the next quarter. So there's a minimum fee at sign on that they need to pay into. And we also want money up front to get their house market ready. Because when we're fronting the money, I'm not a bank. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do the admin behind it. It's too costly. It's silly. It's not worth my time. So yeah, we want to get the house market ready. We need that money to move forward. And then when there's repairs, we need that money in there. We're not going to call if it's an emergency at 12 midnight and say, hey, is it okay if we do this? No, because that's our job. We know it's okay. Like your house is it's stressed. It's getting ruined. We need to get in there and fix it. Also, this resident is stressed out. We want them to renew. We want this to be a good product from the renew. So we move forward, and owners, they might get upset when you're in the trust building stage, which is like the first 100 days of relationship. But as you show them that you know what the heck you're doing and you're on their team, and they start to be like, okay, yeah, no big deal. But there is a few like back against the wall moments where they want to go toe to toe, and you just have to say, you know, this is the way we function. We have lots of experience. If you'd like to manage this property on your own, we'd be happy to give it back to you. And then they're like, I don't want that.
Yeah. And I think, especially for people who never manage their own properties, they don't really understand all of the work, all of the calls, all of the back end stuff that's never seen. A lot of people think if you can just lease the property out, or if you can just manage the bookings, that's it. They're not thinking about all of the little
exciting stuff.
The exciting stuff in between. And because they don't think about it, they don't necessarily value it.
Yes. We find that the accidental homeowners, or the homeowners that are emotionally attached to their properties, are more difficult to grow trust with. And they're usually the penny pinchers, because they believe that everything's about the dollar, but you know, it's not. There's a lot of relationship, there's a lot of trust, and there's ROI on that.
Yeah, for sure. One of the incidents that we've had recently is a refrigerator went out in one of our short-term rentals, and instead of paying to have it fixed, they wanted to use their home warranty, which was 3 weeks out. Well, 3 weeks out in the middle of short-term rental season is like thousands of dollars, not just 500. So getting individual owners to understand the loss of money you get by waiting to save has been a difficult challenge for some of our owners.
I noticed that when I break it down by a day, like how much this is going to cost you by day, and how much that repair cost, and you put it down on paper for them so they can see it, it makes a big difference. Because they're like, hey, we're 3 weeks out, and I'm in, long-term rental, so it's usually like $50 to $75 a day. I'm like, we can make this $300 repair, or we can let it sit for 3 weeks. I mean, what's it going to be? Like, look at the numbers. Do you want to be in the hole or not?
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to your fees and percentages and stuff, can you give us a general breakdown of what that is?
Yeah. So we do have a management fee, and that is still about 85 to 95% of our revenue. I want to change that over the next 2 years to get that a little lower and get the other ones, bigger percentages. So we do have the management fee, and then we have a leasing fee. And then we have an annual accounting fee. That's just once a year where everybody pays your accounting fee. That's my favorite because it's a big number when it rolls in. And it's my slowest month of the year. So it's kind of exciting to see that bump up. But yeah, we have a good bit of things that we monetize, and we're learning about monetizing from apartments. We're learning about monetizing from people in Australia. I'm learning about monetizing from other property management groups. I'm part of NARPM, National Association of Property Managers, and we're actually a really connected group. We have a Facebook group of about 1,000 people in there, and we're constantly asking questions like, how do you handle this? Like, do you guys charge for this? We don't talk about the actual numbers because, that's risky, but yeah, we're always asking, like, how do you do this? Did you take this in house? How long before you outsource this did you bring it back in house? And then how did you monetize that? And then how how terrifying was it? And did anybody actually leave? And usually you get 3 emails from angry people and then 2 that say, thank you, you've done a great job. And then 1 person that leaves out of 200-300 properties. So
Right.
it's not as scary as what we built it up to be in our heads.
Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, if any of our listeners wanted to find out more about you, more about your business, any of that kind of stuff, I know that you had a free marketing guide and some other things that you were talking about giving to our listeners. Where can they go to find that?
Sure, absolutely. We are, I always want to say something silly, but it's not. Okay, so we're at oaktrustproperties.com. It's really easy to find, just our name, oaktrustproperties.com. We have a free marketing guide. You can go on there and download. It tells you how we market your property and set you up for success. And then there's also an archive in there that has all my other podcasts, things that we talk about. We're always here to help you price out a property and, help you figure out what the rental rate might be. And then if any questions you have picking out a property, we'd be happy to help you navigate that a bit with your real estate agent. But yeah, we're also on Facebook and LinkedIn. We're happy to hear from you and help you out.
Great. And before we let you go, do you have one piece of advice for newer real estate investors when they're looking at getting a property manager? What kind of things should they be looking for?
You want them to push back. If they're saying yes to everything you do, they're too hungry. They haven't done it long enough. And that means they're probably going to make a mess.
Good.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, Janet, thank you so much.
Take care, y'all. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Jam. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information, check out our website, therealestatejam.com, or find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at The Real Estate Jam. If you have any questions, feel free to drop us an email at therealestatejam@gmail.com. See you next episode.